Well, some breaking news. What a day it's been for the Cubs. We introduced our newest Cubs star and Kyle Tucker and trade our oldest star. Well, at least the guy that we had last year, Cody Bellinger. Bellinger sent to the Yankees in a deal that was mostly about salary. And I guess, just dumping the salary, they did get a prospect back. But we're going to talk about that right here on the Cubs baseball channel. So get in the comments section. Tell me what you guys think. Here we are live doing it, talking about this thing. Cody Bellinger is going to the Yankees, and the Cubs are picking up $5 million of it. They get a prospect back, and and obviously the Yankees feel good about actually getting a potentially great player. But what does it say about the Cubs? Where are things now? Where do they do? What are they doing with the roster? Does that open up money for other deals? All that coming up right here. But let me get this show started. And thank you guys for hanging out. Go Cubs. All right, so it's a done deal. The Cubs have traded Cody Bellinger, and that just broke. Big news in baseball is that Cody Bellinger is traded, and the Cubs are getting back Cody Poteet in return. There's so many different things to get into with this deal. I mean, this was basically a cash drop for the Cubs. They also got to pick up $5 million of the money, so Bellinger was owed $27.5 million. The Cubs will take $5 million of that to make this deal happen. Both of these teams were kind of, sitting around and waiting on someone to blink from all the reports, but they got it done. And this is what the Cubs were hoping, is that that they could get him out of the way. They didn't have a spot for him anymore, and by doing so, now they open up more money to go out and sign some other players. So Bellinger, last season, the off season, I mean, he was the big get that the Cubs had. Everybody was fired up. I can remember watching Cubs convention, and then there's, Dansby Swanson saying, go sign Bellinger, and they did. They went and signed him. They gave him a 3-year deal with some opt-outs. He didn't perform quite as well as he did the year before. I don't think he was a bad player by any means, but he wasn't a superstar player, and the Cubs ended up 83-79. And when you miss the playoffs 2 years in a row, and they're spending money, it's not like they're not, then you got to try to figure out a new way to get things done. And I guess going to the Yankees is that one. So good to see all you guys in the comments section. And then, where do the Cubs go from here? I was surprised by the timing, just because we just got done with the press conference. We heard all about Kyle Tucker and heard from him, and it's exciting, and then Jed Hoyer talked a lot about, kind of what the future of the team was. I thought he did good in the press conference. I think Kyle Tucker is the type of player that matters. What did it say? Jed Hoyer, right? Yeah. That's the, it's the type of move that you have to make, because you needed like a real threat in the middle of the lineup. And the Cubs were hamstrung by this. It wasn't just that they wanted to get rid of Cody Bellinger. It's just that they gave no trade clauses to Seiya Suzuki and to Ian Happ. So you're stuck with those two guys, or they're going to have to agree to the trade. Seiya's name was popping up in some deals, but it didn't really seem like it was realistic. So most likely he's going to be a DH if you use any of the young guys. But then you had Bellinger. So, what were you going to do? So they wanted to get rid of the contract. I think all of us thought that Bellinger was going to opt out in the first place. And when he didn't opt out, it was kind of like, oh my goodness, he's back. And I did a live show when he came back, and I was shocked by it. Really didn't think that was going to be the case. But Bellinger's, look, the Yankees are getting a pretty good player back, and he's a guy that can play first base in the outfield. But you could tell in the press conference when Jed Hoyer was talking about Michael Busch being like a Gold Glove first baseman, that they're sold on him. He's not moving to second. He's not moving to third. He's staying right at first base. So there you go. For whatever reason, the Cubs are the most, according to Forbes, the fourth most valuable franchise in the league. But I think that the reason why they're not trying to go out and spend a ton more money is because I feel like they're in a spot where they want to see results before they just go out and start, throwing big time money. And that's that this front office has to prove that they can win. That's just my opinion. So, Bellinger, we knew he was going to get traded, and that's the thing. But look, Bellinger's a former MVP. He was the 2017 National League Rookie of the Year, 2019 NL MVP with the Dodgers. Had really bad seasons, 20 to 22. But then 23, remember, he was the comeback player of the year. And what a season that was. He had 307. He had 26 home runs, 97 runs batted in. Some of those RBIs were huge, too. I mean, he was so clutch for the Cubs. He stole 20 bases. It was a free agent year for him, and it was a bounce back year for him. But then last year he hit 266. He only had 18 home runs. He had 78 runs batted in, only 9 stolen bases, and he didn't really make an impact. And I feel like, when you're kind of in a spot where the Cubs are, that's a role where you really want an impact player. And so, so that's the deal. Now, making this deal tells me that that the Cubs are ready to go do some other stuff. Some of you guys are saying, hey, maybe you go out and sign Pete Alonso. I don't know. I haven't heard the Cubs, really kind of, associated with him, besides the, kind of the trade deadline at last year. All right, let's talk about Cody Poteet. That's who they got back from the Yankees. He's a guy that was drafted by the Washington Nationals in the 27th round of the 2012 MLB draft out of high school, but then he went back to college. He went to UCLA and was taken by the Marlins in the 4th round of the 2015 draft. And 20 and 21 and 22 pitched some with the Marlins, 7 games, was 2-3, had a 4.99 ERA, 22 with the Marlins, had a 3.86 ERA, 12 games, 2 of those starts. And then last year with the Yankees, he had a 3-0 record and a 2.22 ERA, made 5 appearances and 4 starts. So, I guess that would put him as someone that would be considered a prospect. Still trying to figure out, where he is on the prospect list, working on that right now. But if he can come in and pitch some innings, I mean, with the Cubs, one of the things that I knew with the Cubs that they were going to be dealing with in this trade is the fact that they were basically just trying to dump salary. You knew going into this that they weren't going to get a whole lot back. A team was going to have to pick up that salary, and then you're trying to get something back in return, just so that you look at it and you don't feel like you're getting burnt in the deal. The getting Poteet back is basically like something, right? Like it's not like, trading a washing machine for a guy, but a decent young pitcher that, got a cup of coffee and didn't do too bad. But this isn't value for value here. The Cubs, because of the money in this contract, were in a weak position in this trade. I mean, like they were basically just getting rid of salary. But because they thought that he wasn't going to come back anyway and he was going to opt out of his contract, they're probably just like, look, we don't even care. We didn't expect to get anything back. So, I can't remember. I think if he opted out, they had to pay him $5 million anyway. So maybe that's where the $5 million comes from. I'm not an expert on these contracts, but I feel like that's kind of where the Yankees can go back and say, hey, to their ownership, look, we got a star player. We didn't get Juan Soto, and everyone in New York's like, fighting over that. Mets fans and Yankees fans, like they go at it all the time. But we did get Cody Bellinger. We signed Max Fried. They'll go out and get some more players. And so what they're trying to do is build up from the point of where they are right now, where they're saying, hey, you know what, we're going to try to make this trade work. This is interesting to me. And yes, he is a pitcher. This is interesting to me just because we heard that maybe the Angels were involved, but the Angels don't have a lot of money, and maybe the Mariners were involved. Could that have been, part of a deal that would have brought in, a Luis Castillo? I know they've talked about Nico Horner there. They've needed some offense, but yeah, yeah, Gary. I mean, washing machines are expensive these days, but remember there was a guy that was traded for like a washing machine in independent baseball, or something like that, like an appliance. So this is all about the money. But the thing that just of this whole deal to me is that I feel like with these contracts and given half a no trade clause, to me, if you could have picked a guy, I would have rather had Bellinger in the outfield and traded Happ, but you can't do it because he's got a no trade clause, and so does Suzuki. So, maybe when they were kind of floating Suzuki as a potential trade candidate, maybe they were thinking, and I don't know, but maybe they were thinking that, if we trade Bellinger, if we trade Suzuki, maybe we could keep Bellinger, but he's done. So I'm going to look at this as something that we knew was going to happen. Not a whole lot in return for the Cubs, except it opens up room to go out and sign. Yeah, and you're right. Happ did have 25 bombs. My issue with Happ is just the inconsistency. Look, when he's hot, seems like all of his good games come in and like they're in bunches, and like he gets 3 or 4 hits in one day, and then we don't see him for a week, But he plays Gold Glove defense, and you don't really have to worry about him. He gets on base a lot. So, he brings a lot to the table. Plus, he's been a Cub since he got drafted. So I like that part of it. I just think Bellinger's a better player. But from where we're at right now, when you look at the way that the outfield is now looking, right? You got Tucker. He's got to play. You got Suzuki, who's proven that he's not good defensively. So probably DH. Maybe you still trade him, right? You got Pete Crow Armstrong in center field. Defensively, it really the guys started to really turn it on last year. I think we all kind of started seeing the Hollywood Pete I was telling you about. You got Ian Happ, right? Cubs got rid of Mike Tauchman. He's with the White Sox now. And now they got rid of Cody Bellinger. You got Alexander Canario is out of options. So which means he's either going to be on the big league roster or you're going to trade him. You got Woody Harrelson was traded for a washing machine in semi-pro with Will Ferrell. Yeah, that happened too. You got Owen Casey, who hasn't been to the big leagues yet, but he's going to be one of the better players that the Cubs are going to have. That's an outfielder. He's a right fielder. Now his name's popped up in some trades. If the Cubs go out and sign a mega star, if they go out and lock down, like if they make a deal for an ace, that they may have to trade one of their prospects. Maybe it's Owen Casey, but I certainly hope not. They went to the GM meetings and his name kept popping up in trades. This guy's got really star written all over him. Big left-handed hitter. He's good defensively. They're saying that maybe he hasn't hit as many home runs as they thought he was. He's going to hit them. He's going to hit them. It's a big dude, and he barrels the ball up. He's a really good hitter. So, so there you go. And then you got Kevin Alcantara. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Cubs don't make a trade and include one of those prospect outfielders if they don't trade Suzuki, right? So with the money, here's Kevin's popping in. He's like, hey, now that put some pressure on the Marlins to trade Luzardo. That's another name that's popped up. That the Marlins want to make some trades. Cubs got, just like I just said, there's some prospects right there talking about the outfielders that you could send to Miami, including Canario, who has proven that he can hit for power. He has struck out a lot, but he can hit for power. And maybe he's a guy that you slide in one of these deals to get a starting pitcher. But The thing that I can tell you that I love to see with this front office that doesn't have an extension, that contracts are up at the end of the year. It's the same reason that when you watch players like Cody Bellinger, the year that he was the comeback player of the year, 1-year deal, playing for free agency, they step up their game. And that's why you guys will hear me constantly say that that competition leads to people's best. And what Jed Hoyer's doing right now is he's throwing caution to the wind, and he's going out there and he's trying to build a roster that can win. And I don't think they're done yet. I still think that they could do some work maybe at third base. If they trade Nico Horner, maybe that means you slide Matt Shaw to second. But we'll see. But these moves that they're making are telling me that there's a sense of urgency, and I didn't see that sense of urgency over the last few years. Even the Bellinger signing last season, going out and getting Hector Neris and some of these guys, like, it's like, you know what? Like, let's go out and get Kyle Tucker. When Theo Epstein was the GM of the Cubs, or the team president, or whatever his title was, the thing that I remember when I started to figure out what made him tick is that he wanted the elite talent, the guys that were better than the other guys, the superstars. And when you look at the team that won the World Series in 2016, there were a lot of those guys around the diamond. Now they drafted and traded for some of those guys, but when you looked at the roster over the last few years, it didn't feel the same way. I mean, you're not looking at first and going, well, there's Anthony Rizzo, right? And there's Ben Zobrist, and there's Javi Baez, and there's Chris Bryant, and there's, we just didn't have that. And that's how you win in baseball. You got to constantly have better players than the other team on the field. All I know is Master Pony better not be our starting third baseman. There was stuff like that just irked me. You got a minor league system of these players that you're trying to develop, and then you go and sign like a free agent that's not going to blow your socks off, and you're going to play him all the time. All right, I'm going to answer this one. I'm confused. We get a reliever in return and eat $5 million. Yes. So that tells you that there was absolutely no market for Bellinger. That deal to me says this was the best we could do. Nobody wanted to pay him except the Yankees. And the reason that the Yankees did is because they're taking heat right now because they didn't sign Juan Soto. Yankees fans expected Juan Soto to get the 16-year deal with their team, not the Mets. So this is kind of like, this is kind of like, well, we'll do this, and hopefully this is something that kind of helps us build our organization up, right? Gives the fan base something that maybe they'll get a little heat off of them. Is Poteet going to be? Who knows? I mean, it seems like every time the Yankees trade us these pitchers, they're, we got rid of Wisniewski, who we got from the Yankees, and now we get Poteet. But maybe he's good. Who knows? I don't know much about him, to be honest with you. I did see him pitch when he was in the minor leagues, but I don't remember much about him. His stats look like he can pitch a little bit, but the return for a former MVP, comeback player of the year, and a star like Cody Bellinger shouldn't be basically a guy with 5 appearances last year. But because of the money and there's no market for him, then that's why, so looking at where the Cubs go from here now, I think that's the next thing that I want to get into. And as you guys hang out, man, please give a thumbs up. Go Cubs. Like and subscribe if you're hanging out with us here for the first time. I'm Mick Gillespie, been in the Cubs organization for over 20 years and a Cubs fan my entire life. So it's fun to get on here and talk about the Cubs because I love them. But they have broken my heart before. Cubs fans, you know what I'm talking about. You know what? I feel like where we're going right now, to me, is exciting. Getting Kyle Tucker. Yeah, we gotta get Kyle Tucker. We got to get him signed. No doubt about it. We got to get him signed. Now, what is the next thing? You're talking about Kirby Yates, who's a 37-year-old guy that maybe, that you could bring in and he could close. He closed for the Rangers last year. He's had 2 good years and then some not good years. Like you kind of, it feels a lot like Neris to me. You got, are the Cubs looking at Luzardo of the Marlins? Well, we hear they are, and they're in talks. The Cubs have the prospects to make these trades. And if you get Luzardo, I like Luzardo because I think that the Cubs are pretty left-handed heavy in the starting rotation. I wouldn't mind having a righty. Luis Castillo's right-handed, and I think Luzardo's a lefty, so I got it backwards. But anyway, Luis Castillo, you look at his numbers, and that guy over the last couple of years has been a machine. And so maybe that's a guy that the Mariners would be willing to to go out and part with for some prospects. The Cubs were kind of linked with Toronto, who I know they're interested, and who wouldn't be, to get Owen Casey, but he's from Canada. He's one of Canada's best young stars. And if you're in Toronto, you got a guy like that and build your organization around him. Fans are going to love him. He's a hometown guy, right? Hometown hero. So, so I guess that's kind of where they are. I haven't heard a lot of talks as far as what the Cubs are going to do at third base. It feels a little bit like last year right now when we were like, oh, well, maybe Christopher Morel can play third base. And then you're watching him and you're like, man, this guy's feet are bad. His gloves bad. Like everything about his arms bad. Just his arm angled slot on the throws to first looks terrible. So, I don't know what third base looks like. I mean, Matt Shaw played third base in the minors. He was okay at it. Maybe he's a guy there, or do the Cubs go out and try to get somebody that they could sign as a free agent, or maybe there's somebody out there who, who they feel like they could trade for. And that's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. But the catcher spot, now you got Carson Kelly. Kind of got that locked down. They said they're comfortable with Michael Busch. Nico's name's popped up in trades. But right now you got Nico, Dansby Swanson. The Cubs are going to need Dansby Swanson to start playing like his contract and like a superstar instead of a guy that's batting eighth. No, we don't know who's at third. Happ in left, Pete Crow Armstrong in center, Kyle Tucker in right, and then I'm guessing it's Seiya Suzuki is DH. They'll spin that around, but I'm saying that's kind of where I'm looking at this team right now and saying to myself, okay, that's kind of where we are. Bring back Wisdom. No chance. I never want to see that guy in a Cubs uniform ever again. Watching him play the field was awful. I mean, it looked like they went and got a guy from the Blackhawks or the Bears who was a great athlete, good-looking guy, and all that stuff. And then you'd watch him like try to field the ball, and it was terrible. Like, he's one of the worst defenders I think I've ever seen. And then it was like the home run derby. Like, I'm going to try to hit a home run every time. Sometimes he did, but a lot of times he struck out. So no, I don't think we're going to bring him back. I want to see the young guys get experience and try to mesh this group of veterans with the young players, all of these prospects that the Cubs have. You got Matt Shaw, who is the thing I'm going to tell you, and I've said this before on this channel, that you're going to love about Matt Shaw is that he walks. And the power's great. He's going to drive in runs. Defensively, he's good enough. But the walks tell you that when he gets to the big leagues, even if he struggles, he's going to get on base. And that's like when you look at like Pete Crow Armstrong, that's been one of his biggest issues to me, is that he's just got to you got to have a better eye. Don't get yourself out. Take the walks. And then every time he gets on base, it's a double or triple. Kevin's talking about Owen Casey. I've told you guys I love Owen Casey. Guy's a left-handed bat, barrels the ball up. It's like he's always hitting the ball hard. I mean, he just makes great contact, clutch player. Defensively, he's really good. And he's someone that the Cubs are going to be able to rely on. You got James Triantos, who's kind of a hit machine, plays good defensively, not great, but good. At least right now, but he could definitely get better. But I like his game a lot. Maybe he could walk a little more, but he makes contact so much and gets a ton of hits and is a tough out. He'll just get up there and just spoil pitches and all that stuff. He's a guy who you put in the lineup and he's a pain in some people's butts, so you like that. He's a good player to have. And of the prospects, and then Moises Ballesteros, I haven't really talked about him that much. And I know some of you guys are in love with him, but the problem is that the guy's got to do a better job defensively, and he's got to keep playing catcher, because when I saw him, he wasn't good enough. And you get to the big leagues and you get behind the plate, man, it's more than just hitting. And he's not tall enough to be a first baseman, so he could be a DH right now. He could certainly hit at the big league level. Left-handed batter, soft hands, makes great contact, got some power when he wants it, goes the other way, uses the whole field. He's a good hitter. It's that if they got him as a catcher and they think he's going to catch, he's going to have to go out there and just get better at the position. So those are the young players that I'm kind of keeping an eye on right now. All right, Kyle, I'm going to throw you up there. I'm going to ask all you guys this question as you hang out on the Cubs baseball channel. Who got the better of this deal? The Yankees or the Cubs? Right. Now you got payroll flexibility. You didn't think that he was going to come back anyway. So who got the better of the deal? And I think that's kind of one of those, it's one of those questions that I kind of feel like is an easy question to ask, right? Hey, how about the list of former say this. Cody Bellinger, DJ LeMahieu, Marcus Stroman, Anthony Rizzo, Mark Leiter Jr., Scott Efros, and Gleyber Torres. All former now Colton Brewer. Former. Oh man, that's so funny. Put that on Twitter. I don't feel like this was a small market deal for the Cubs, and I know some of you guys feel like this. I feel like this was a deal where there just wasn't a spot for him anymore. And I think when when you make this deal, you're making this deal because you didn't expect the guy to be on your team anyway. But you say the Yankees, we didn't even get a prospect. I know. I was hearing that we were trying to get we were going to get the number 5 prospect they had. Man, I've been talking about the fact that it was going to be kind of a throw-in player in this deal, just to be able to act like you got something back in return. Here's Ed. He says Poteet replaces Wisniewski. So when a starter and you got to have more than one guy. I like your picture there, your meme. Yeah, you've got to have more than one guy. Once, like one extra starter. And I can remember talking to Theo Epstein about having 7 or 8 guys that can start. We saw that last year, and the Cubs actually did a really good job of having a bank of guys that could jump in and start. One of my favorites was Javier Assad. Man, that guy would just be like, when you needed somebody, he was just always ready to jump in and help. So, but a lot of you guys feel like the Cubs are basically that this is kind of like a Tampa Bay Rays or an Oakland A's type trade. You guys feel like that this trade was all about money and that the Cubs are cheap. Am I saying that right? Or do you think that this was a good deal? I feel like this was a deal because they didn't expect him to opt back into his contract, and they wanted somebody to pick up that salary. So, where was he going to play? And to me, some of the problems with the rosters, the roster issues were that they have too many guys signed. What you got to have is you got to have this you got to have the foresight to look at what you have in your organization and then do your contracts with your big league guys where you kind of project your guys in the minor leagues to come in and slide and take those spots. So like paying a guy to play left field and giving him a no trade clause when you can throw anybody in left field and get production, it's that to me doesn't make sense. Like there's positions that are tougher to find, like starting pitching, and you get those guys and you pay them a lot of money. Great shortstops obviously are valuable. We spent a lot of money on one of those. So um here's Mark. Mark says, good deal. If we can get Swanson's salary dumped, nobody's going to pick up Swanson's salary, man. Nobody. I mean, he'd have to have he'd have to play, he'd have to have an amazing year to have for somebody to pick up his salary. Now, I'm with you on this one. If the Cubs could get Roki Sasaki, and I'm going to bring on a guest later this week that is a Japanese baseball expert, and we're going to talk about him. His name's Tommy Yamamoto, and he's a friend of mine. He loves baseball, both MLB and Japan, or Japanese, and he knows these players. And I want to know, the thing about Sasaki is that because of the collective bargaining agreement, he's not allowed to sign for his market value. So he has to sign, what do they say, like $7.5 million or less. And so the Cubs could get there or pretty close to it. And that to me would be a huge pickup because he's going to be a young superstar. So we'll see what happens. And he gets to pick the team that he goes to. But, so I think that there's the way that international money works is not something that's I'm a total expert on. I know that the Cubs have a lot of it. And then maybe they could sell them on the fact that because with us Cubs fans, we're everywhere, we're a huge fan base, that you're going to have the ability to really market yourself. That there's a lot of name, image, and likeness that goes along with playing for the Cubs. It's a huge brand, and if you're good, just ask Shota Imanaga, and you can make yourself a household name by basically by going out there and getting the job done as a Cub. And if you're good, we love you. We never forget you. So that's one right now. I have not heard the polar bear Pete Alonso's name come with the Cubs. And then I'm telling you, today in that press conference when Jed Hoyer was talking about Michael Busch, it tells you that they're satisfied with Michael Busch. He actually had a pretty good season last year as a rookie. The money's good for them. They made a trade to get him. They're not going to want to go out there and sign a free agent. Plus, there's nowhere for Alonso to play. Look for Alonso maybe to end up with the Yankees, which would be really interesting when the Mets and Yankees played. Because that guy, if you've ever seen him in the home run derby, he holds a grudge. So it'd be pretty funny, for the Yankees to sign him. It feels like all of the media is pushing. Look, man, I've talked about Trevor Bauer. Every time I talk about him, it becomes polarizing. I don't know why he's not getting signed, to be honest with you, but he's done something. He's accused of a lot of stuff, and then we found out that some of that stuff's not true, but he's blackballed. I'm just going to tell you that right now. He is blackballed. So nobody's signing him. And nobody wants to take the risk. And he's done some of this to himself too, guys. I mean, come on. He was a pain in the ass when he was in when he was in the big leagues. He just always kind of just putting himself in a bad spot. But is he back with the Dodgers, Becky? I didn't see that. I didn't see that. I mean, I'd be surprised if he was. And if he slid in there, good for him. But it just feels like he's been blackballed. So I watched all of his videos of him playing in the Mexican League and in Japan and stuff, and he can still pitch. All you guys, though, hanging out in the comment section, thank you so much, and for being here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up as you hang out. Okay, no, Dave's saying no, he's not with any team. Yeah, I didn't think so. So where do we go? Where do we go from here? I guess is the other thing. positions of need for the Cubs. They got the catcher figured out. They've got basically third base. Obviously, they want to get an ace like at the front of this rotation. And I'm sure they would love to do it without having to give up one of their other starters that they want. Meaning that don't trade Justin Steele. Don't give up Imanaga. If you got Sasaki and then you went out and traded for say a Castillo or a Luzardo, man, that's what it's going to take to win. Not showing up and being like, hey, we don't really know. We got a lot of question marks. What about Tyone? Maybe you trade Tyone, or maybe he's your fifth guy. Or what about the guy they just got from Cleveland, Boyd, right? Well, maybe he's in the bullpen. I don't know. But what you got to do is you got to have so much competition for those starting spots. Think about the Cubs when they won the World Series. Every day they threw somebody good. Every day. It was like you would look at the rotation and you're like, well, we got John Lester, got John Lackey, Travis Wood. Yeah, guess what? You're gonna see the kid, Kyle Hendricks. He was good, and Hendricks was like fighting his butt off just to even get in that rotation. So the Cubs are going to have to try to get there. So right now, I mean, you look at the rotation and it's, it's kind of what it was last year. What if Imanaga has a step back season? That could happen. What if, Steele's hurt again? That could happen. You'd love to see Jordan Wicks come back, Ben Brown, if he could come back and be healthy, and all that stuff. But, we'll see. Any questions that you guys have? Here's one right here. What happened to Tyson Miller and Jorge Lopez? I know Lopez is a free agent. I think Miller's back, right? Am I wrong? I thought Tyson Miller was back. And I love him, and he's a really cool guy. Like off the field, guy loves baseball cards. Like collects baseball cards. I can remember talking to him about that. He was great for the Cubs. Had so many good outings. So, but I would, if I was the Cubs, I'd think about Lopez too, bringing Lopez back because, I thought that, that he was a key part of the bullpen when it was actually pretty good last year. But the problem I have with the bullpen last year is when we needed them to be good, they weren't. And then to make a push when you're playing against like a bunch of AAA guys and the end of the season when everybody's out of it doesn't matter to me. You got to be good from the beginning to the end. So, Hap's not going anywhere. We talked about that. Do you guys think that for those of you that are just getting here right now, do you think that trading Cody Bellinger to the Yankees for salary and basically like a 30-year-old pitcher that really hadn't done a whole lot in the big leagues, it was a good deal? And I guess the way that you would really look at this would be what they do with the money, right? Because if they go out and they pull off something good, right? And you're right, Robert. It was a cash dump. If they turn this into, hey, will they go out and they nail a closer with this money and get somebody that can come in and shut games down? Yeah, you're right. No more belly bombs at Wrigley. Then it's worth it. So I feel like with what Hoyer's doing this year is that he's being very aggressive. And, the Kyle Tucker trade could blow up on the Cubs, but it could be a great deal. If Cam Smith turns out to be a really good big league player, then you know what? Then that may be one of those deals you look back and you go, man, we probably shouldn't have made this. But I saw him. I don't know yet. Nothing about him reminded me of Javi Baez or Chris Bryant. They're the two best minor leaguers I've ever seen. Uh, Kyle Schwarber was really good too. I didn't see that with him, but he had also just gotten out of college, had played a handful of professional games. So, um, you know, yeah, Travis is like, no belly bombs in October. Yeah, can you imagine the rematch of the 1932 World Series between the Cubs and the Yankees, and some bombs hit by Belly? If the Cubs are going to make this season the successful season that we hope that they're going to make it, what else do you think that they're going to need to do? And do you think anybody else gets traded? I mean, do you think that Nico's on trade watch? Because I kind of feel like Nico Horner is probably the player that you really need to pay attention to the most, just because he's at a position at second base that you got a lot of you've got kind of a lot of of depth in. And so you could move him out and it's not going to be, it's not going to be as bad as it would be, because you don't really have a third baseman right now. Um, so, so if you're just getting here, let me go back over it again. The Cubs have traded Cody Bellinger to the Yankees. The former MVP still has 2 years on his contract, right? So he's got opt out for next year as well. He didn't opt out this year. This was a move for the Yankees to kind of, respond after not getting Juan Soto. The Cubs threw in $5 million to the deal. And the Yankees sent Cody Poteet, who in his career is 5-4 with a 3.80 ERA, 24 games, 13 starts as a big leaguer between the Marlins and the Yankees. But if you look at his numbers, I mean, last year, his final 3 games, or excuse me, his final 5 games, he was 3-0 with 4 starts and had a 2.22 ERA. So, he when he got to the big leagues and pitched for the Yankees, obviously it was good. That's all I know. He's a 6'1", 190-pound right-handed pitcher. And sometimes these throwing guys turn into something, though. When the Cubs traded Mark DeRosa to the Cleveland Indians, they got back Chris Archer. And nobody even knew who Chris Archer was. Like, he was a throw-in in the deal, and it turned out to ended up being a really good pitcher. Arch was really good. And then traded him to the Tampa Bay Rays, and he was fantastic. He would have been such a good part of the the Cubs team moving forward. So, Cody Bellinger leaving the Cubs and going to the Yankees. Mentioned the money. Cubs saved $22.5 million in the deal. And then, obviously they had to pay the $5 million, sum to get rid of them. And that's it. They don't have to pay for, what is it? They're picking up $2.5 million of his salary, both this year and next year. Okay. Yeah. So basically they just split it over 2 years. But anyway, so that's the deal. And a big day for the Cubs all the way around, just because you introduced Kyle Tucker. Here's your new star. You trade your old star out, and there you go. Walter, thank you, man. I appreciate you guys. I try to drop a new video out every morning for you guys, and can't tell you how much it means to me that you guys watch them, and we kind of get together and talk Cubs. So thank you. I know Omar, I know a lot of you guys are not, you put Tom Ricketts and Jed Hoyer in there, suck at their job. I still feel like this, man. I've said this a lot in my videos. I feel like that the Cubs would spend more money if they felt better about some of the the direction of the organization. And maybe that money will go to Kyle Tucker. If Kyle Tucker has a big year, if you're the Cubs, you may have to just go all in and get the guy signed. Because you look at his numbers, I mean, he puts up Juan Soto type numbers. Guy's won a World Series. He's good. And the Cubs need a franchise player. Plus, he's young enough where, it makes sense. He's going to get a big deal no matter what happens, unless he has a really terrible season. I just we'll kind of see what happens there. But I feel like that this front office has kind of been, disappointing, because if you don't make the playoffs, you don't have a chance to win the World Series. And when you're in Chicago, it's a big market. You have got to be in the playoffs and playing for a shot to win a World Series. So, that's kind of where I'm at right now with that. Crosby says, look for Luzardo. That'd be a good move for the Cubs. Yankees fans are laughing. Yeah, having spent some time in right outside of New York in New Jersey. Shout out to Hightstown, where I went to high school. Former Cubs minor league prospect is the baseball coach where I used to play. So that's pretty cool. At Hightstown High, which I think's just amazing. But yeah, Yankees fans love this deal. Look, they don't care. The Yankees fans look at this and they're probably just shocked that they got $5 million back. So, okay, look, here's a good one right here. I've heard Minter's name a lot. We love Minter. Be a good Cub. Yates, we've talked about him. Finnegan. I mean, this is where the Cubs are really got an opportunity to build, and that's with the bullpen, and actually go out there and put together a bullpen that when you get the lead late, you can win and you have options, because it didn't feel like there were a lot of options last year at times with that bullpen. And I know that Jed Hoyer kind of looked at the end of the season and thought that the bullpen was good and all that stuff. That when you're out of it, it's different than when the games count. It just is to me. And when the Cubs needed the bullpen wasn't there. We had Heart Attack Hector. Remember him? Yeah, that was fun. They threw poor Adbert Alzolai's arm off the year before when David Ross was there, and then he wasn't anything. And I mean, it's a tough job, and one of the toughest jobs that you'll see managing is that a manager's job is with the front office now to know when to use these guys and when not to use them. I mean, they're humans. Not everybody's Goose Gossage or Bruce Sutter. They can just go out there and throw every day. Dennis Eckersley. A lot of these guys, you're talking about having issues with arm problems because they throw all the time. So, yeah, it was nice when he was pumping his fist because he was getting all those saves. Those were some good years. But anyway, thank you guys for hanging out again. Cody Bellinger trade made. We jumped on it here, and we'll see what the next move is. I think that you're going to see the Cubs go after top end pitching, elite pitching. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get Luzardo from the Mariners. From the Marlins, or Castillo from the Mariners. I think that if they see an opportunity to get it, but we'll keep an eye on Roki Sasaki. That one's really out of their hands, other than making a pitch. And, from what all I'm hearing is that they made a really good pitch to him, and we'll kind of see what that looks like. But at the, when the next move now is going to come off of the fact that now they have some money to work with. But I like the way that this roster is starting to shape up. I still feel like they could possibly make another move with one of their outfield prospects, or if Seiya Suzuki is okay waiving his no trade clause. But thank all of you guys. Thank you, man. Thank you for coming out here, Everett, and all of you guys. Like and subscribe, thumbs up. Thanks for being on the Cubs baseball channel. As we traded Cody Bellinger. Yeah, maybe this helps with Sasaki. Who knows? I don't know. The other thing that helps the Cubs with Sasaki, how cool would that be if you were him and you got to go play in Japan next year? But thank all of you guys. Go Cubs, and we'll be back on tomorrow morning as we kind of evaluate this whole thing. But and when something breaks, we try to jump on here. Go Cubs.